Thank you, Mr. Gilberti, and thanks to the entire panel. We will now open up for questions. And I wanted to first direct my question to Dr. Orza, and I was wondering about the small number of U.S. businesses utilizing traditional energy sources. Rising costs will have a detrimental impact on growth, given the number of small U.S. businesses. Do you have information on how energy prices impact small businesses compared to large businesses? And if you could provide us with a comparison between the expenditures and percent of total revenues, for example, small businesses allocate to energy resources compared to their larger business counterparts.
I think all of us would tell you that in small business, we do our financial statements to the hundredth of a cent, because those hundredths of cents turn out to be a point, sometimes 2 points of profit or cost. And clearly with small business, you don't have the leverage to negotiate for product pricing, for fuel pricing, for insurance costs, or anything else, much less labor cost. And as a result, you are wholly held hostage to something that's completely out of your control, like fuel prices. You know, as I showed you on how the country is dealing with gas prices, in virtually every section of the country, everybody is driving less. Well, those are typically consumers that are driving less, and that means they are using all of the services that are delivered by a trucking company, by a plumbing company. It's simply gas on the fire. I would go back to tell you again, you know, OPEC still controls an awful lot of this industry. Many of the states represented by the committee, Pennsylvania, Oklahoma, Texas, are oil and gas states, which a few years ago were suffering. At $20 a barrel, it wasn't worth the trouble to go get some of the very deep gas and oil. Pennsylvania right now is a boom state again for natural gas. It's worth going after. That will build an economy. Along the way, we have to make sure we don't bankrupt the businesses who can't afford the increases they're suffering. So it is clearly exacerbated, certainly by trucking companies. They pay it immediately. And there is one simple solution, and that is to suspend federal gas taxes or diesel taxes for some period of time. You know, Congress decided to send 117 million households a rebate check, and it took almost 5 months. We won't get them until May. You could suspend gas taxes immediately and help these businesses today.
Thank you. Mr. Williford, I understand from your comments that contractors sometimes place competitive bids on projects, which is something that this committee has an intense interest in. And you mentioned the need to estimate and project numbers when placing a bid, and I assume you factor fuel prices into that bid. And I was wondering if you can give the committee an idea of how you address the volatility of fuel costs when you prepare your long-term bids.
Mr. Chairman, I don't mean to be flippant, but you hope that you got it right. Normally, it takes us about 6 months after we bid and are awarded a project for us to mobilize and get on site. Now, that's on the construction side of our business. So, therefore, if we bid a project and are awarded that project today, and we have factored into our burden for that project a price of $3.30 a gallon, if that goes to $3.50 in 6 months, then when we're actually on the project and expending funds for that project, then the project is already a loser. So you do the best you can. You look out into the future and take the estimates that some of these folks have referred to and hope that you get it right. And if you don't, then, as I said, you're already dealing with a loser.
Mr. Graff, you talked about the direct impact that gas prices have, which is obvious for everyone to see, but I appreciate you continuing to talk about the problem. But I'm wondering about indirect gas prices, because when you think of a trucking company, you think, well, the price of gas goes up, and therefore you have to pay more for gas, and that's going to hit your bottom line. But you're getting hit in other ways on gas prices also, and I was wondering if you could talk about the indirect ways that the increase in fuel prices are hurting your business.
The indirect ways, I mean, you have all of your expenses, or from your hospitalization, from your workman's compensation to your health insurance, everything that can be cut, you're looking at and you're cutting. It was spoken here before. Health insurance, the employees got to pay more for their health insurance. It all goes back to the trickle-down effect, the domino effect. We are cutting everything we can actually cut in our industry to stay alive. We need help in so many different ways. It was talked about of suspending the state tax, the federal tax. Well, the governments don't want to hear this. They don't want to hear it because of their highway projects. Well, they're not going to have anybody travel on these highways if it continues on the way it is. I mean, we need help in a lot of ways, and I'm asking for this government to help. Put a panel together, do something. Our industry is dying by the day. We got to have help.